So, I'm a big fan of YouTube. I'm a big fan of the YouTube community. And, a lot of people see YouTube as a waste of time, and, I disagree. I think YouTube is part of the future. I think YouTube is an evolution of the human species' interactions with each other, if that makes sense. I see the same thing in YouTube that I saw in the blogosphere back, around 2010 and before. The blogosphere was the beginnings of a new progression in the human species. It is us making one step closer to the divine. It is humankind evolving to the next level. And I don't really know how else to describe it except that way. See, as what I believe myself to be, a light worker, I see these things. It's a gift, but it can also be viewed as a curse. I see evolution unfold before my eyes. I see YouTube as being a very relevant thing in today's culture, in the same way that Twitter is a very relevant thing in today's culture. And some people get it, and some people don't. I get it. I see the significance of things like YouTube and Twitter. I always dreamed of the day when I could basically have my own TV show, when I could have my own network, where I had the capabilities of realizing these dreams of mine, to have an audience, to express myself, and for people to listen. I thought these were pipe dreams. I thought that I would have to get signed to a multi-million-dollar contract or something in order for these things to happen. I didn't think the average person would be able to do these things in the year 2015 or 2010 or even earlier than that. 2006 to be precise is when I believe YouTube first became a thing. Oh man, I hate this level. But I didn't think these things were going to happen. So, Twitter's a whole nother topic. I won't get into that either. It just has to do with me believing, that journalism is corrupt, and Twitter has taking being informed to the common person. But YouTube has leveled the playing field as far as media is concerned, particularly video. Although YouTube does its part to spread awareness about other forms of media, such as music and photography. So, I try to stay informed as to what's going on YouTube. The thing is, the most popular of YouTube personalities, I'm not a big fan of for the most part. I can see why some of these popular YouTube personalities got popular, but they don't appeal to me. Take for example, PewDiePie. I enjoy his stuff from time to time, but I can only take him in small amounts, because he reminds me of everything that's wrong with modern society. But nothing against the guy, he seems like a nice guy. It's just the fact that what he does generates the most publicity on YouTube. That's a pretty prime example of what's wrong with society in this day and age. Out of this level. Man, I'm tired of getting eaten. So, I'm aware of people like Matthew Santoro. I know that he exists. I know what he does. I know, his contribution to existing. Let me just say right off the bat that I'm not at all a fan of his work. I find his work to be annoying on a personal level, because I really wanted to like the guy, but I think he has a very irreverent sense of humor, and I only say that because I'm not a prude. I'm not somebody who believes in censorship. I believe if there's an audience for your brand, for your personality, go get yours. I just happen to find some of his jokes to be in poor taste. And, if the joke is funny, if it can be in poor taste and be funny, that's one thing, but that's not the impression I got of Matthew Santoro. It's like, he thinks he's funny, and because he thinks he's funny, people with no sense of humor is going to think he's funny. But that's just my opinion, and full disclosure, I haven't watched all of his videos. I've only watched a handful, so maybe I can give him a second chance. But I'm just not a fan of his sensational crack.com swiped headlines. 9 amazing things that actually exist. That whole type of thing. It's just like the type of stuff you see on Cracked, and just like Cracked, it's like it's ignorance disguised as intellectualism. And that's my problem with Cracked, and it's my problem with Matthew Santoro, though, too. It's like, you try to present yourself as being an intellectual, like someone who thinks about things, but you prove yourself to not be that. But you fool the people who actually need the guidance from intellectuals, who actually think things through. I'm concerned that I'm not coming across the way that I want to. I'm not trying to be against Matthew Santoro in this incident. The incident in question is what is her name? Let me look it up real quick. Nicole Arbour. So Nicole Arbour put out a video on YouTube. As of this recording, which I'm going to try to get this out as quickly as possible. As of this recording, it was 6 days ago. So I watched it and I couldn't even get through the whole thing. I tried my damnedest, but the level of ditsy ignorance just kind of got to me. And just for the record, I can kind of see how her and Matthew Santoro hooked up. They both have that same sense of humor. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Because I want to focus on Nicole Arbour. I've known girls like her. Girls like her are bad news. Come on. Keep pressing start thinking it's going to get me through that. Girls like her are bad news. There's one thing I can't stand, and at this point in my life, I'm trying to become more tolerant of other people. I'm trying to become a happier person as opposed to someone who's angry all the time. But this is some work, because if there's one thing I can't stand, it's a stupid person who thinks they're a smart person. I can deal with ignorance and stupidity. It doesn't bother me. What bothers me is a stupid person that thinks they're a smart person. I've known people like that my whole life, and it's always just grinding my gears. I wish it didn't. But, this Nicole Arbour strikes me as someone who is a stupid person that thinks she's smart. That's just my first impression. I could be wrong. But, I came across this story based upon a video that, my main man Dame Drops did. So he brought it to my attention, and the thing is, I was familiar with a lot of these names. I'd never heard of Nicole Arbour, but in my defense, I don't watch videos like hers. She seems to be a carbon copy of what's her name, Karen Alloy, that I used to follow, that I've always liked because she actually, with her, it was an interesting juxtaposition because she came across as ditzy, but she was actually quite intelligent and very down to earth. So, Nicole Arbour comes across as somebody who's trying to be Karen Alloy. And she can't pull it off. It's like I like to say about female artists, pop artists, you're no Alanis. It's like Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift when she's doing, happy music. I don't like her when she's angry. She's no Alanis. And that's what I have to say about Nicole Arbour. You're no Alanis, or in this case, you're no Karen. So Nicole Arbour made this video shaming fat people and being unapologetic about it. I'm not going to get into the details of every little thing she said because it's not worth it. I'm not going to validate thoughts from pseudo-intelligent, ignorant people. But I will respond to a few of the general accusation that she made, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but the gist of what she said is that fat people have no reason to feel sympathy, that they should be shamed, and because it's for the greater good. If fat shaming leads to them getting their life turned around and their health improved, then fat shaming is ultimately a good thing. So correct me if I'm wrong, Nicole, if that's not what you meant. But that's the gist of what I got. And this is a test. This is a nice little test of for me to remain calm, because that's my challenge right now in life. I've always had a temper, and I recognize that it's something that's always held me back. And right now it's the main thing that's holding me back from continued success that I want in my professional and personal life. So I need to get that under control. But this is a test, because Nicole's remarks piss me off on a personal level. I happen to have, plus size people in my life, and they mean a lot to me, and I don't appreciate the way that she has talked about them, lumping them in with, everyone else, because the only reason that someone would be overweight is because they don't eat and exercise. That's it. That's the only thing that would cause a person to not be healthy, is because of their own shortcomings. It has nothing to do with genetics. It has nothing to do with past trauma, because people eat to find comfort in an otherwise cold and calloused world. It has nothing to do with that. It's only because they were born with the potential to be a skinny, petite, ditzy blonde girl like you, because everything's equal. Yeah, I knew this was gonna piss me off. Look, in a lot of cases, yes, it is the overweight person does bring it upon himself. I agree with you. So I can see why they got together. But, there's also been allegations of abuse by, let's see, let me make sure I got my facts straight on this, because, I just heard about this today, and I watched a few YouTube videos. So apparently Matthew Santoro, which I already knew this, is a close friend of Rob Dyke. Now Rob Dyke kind of does this interesting thing. He's this morbid looking dude with dark facial hair and dark hair, and he does the comedy and tragedy. Like, he does Why Would You Put That on the Internet, which is supposed to be funny, emphasis on supposed to be, and then he does the Twisted Tin and all those other series that he does where he focuses on the macabre and the evils of humanity. That, I think he does pretty well. The humor, how do I say this without being a jerk? I don't think that Rob Dyke is cut out for humor. I think he pretends to understand humor, but I don't think he actually understands it. That's nothing against him. He does choice video work. He does choice content. He's a master at what he does. I think he's easily in a league above Matthew Santoro, but Matthew Santoro, I think, is the more popular of the two, which that's YouTube and that's modern society for you. But apparently, Rob Dyke explained a story that Matthew Santoro told to him. And I'm not sure if Rob had the authority to tell this story. I hope that he did. Because, these type of things, if they're told in confidence amongst friends, they should stay that way unless, circumstances, unless they agree that it can be made public. So I hope that that's what Rob did. But apparently, Rob told a story about Matt's relationship with Nicole Arbour. And long story short, it turned out to be a allegedly manipulative, and abusive relationship with physical violence involved on her part, and intimidation and suicide threats. It's like, suicide is not something to be taken lightly. Suicide is a very serious thing, and anyone who would take it lightly, well, that's a whole nother subject altogether. I happen to have lost a close personal friend of mine to suicide. I believe it was suicide. And because suicide was something that he often joked about. And it's become a sensitive subject to me, and there's plenty of people out there who have suffered more personal losses and more tragedy based on suicide. So I'm not going to pretend to be the poster boy for suicide damage, because I'm not. But it's not something that you take lightly. It's not something that you threaten just because you're a little emo bitch that doesn't know how to deal with people and has a meltdown whenever things don't go your way. Allegedly. I don't know for a fact that these things are true. What I do know for a fact is that Nicole Arbour is a pretty... If her video, Dear Fat People, can be taken into account, she's a pretty lousy human being. There's all kinds of reasons why someone would be overweight. And you know what? People are self-destructive in numerous ways. In this country, we have a right to be self-destructive. And so many forms of self-destruction are acceptable. But there are certain people, and they're always skinny bitches and skinny people, skinny guys, that have an issue with overweight people. They think just because they hit the genetic lottery, they can't gain weight, that it's a personal slight towards them if they have to even look at someone overweight. And this Nicole Arbour strikes me as someone like that. Someone so intolerant that they can't even look at someone different than them. These idiot people, these ignorant motherfuckers, they make a correlation, and they think that it's, intelligent, that, them being overweight affects me. No, it doesn't. If it affects you, that's a sign of an entirely different problem. I don't even know what to say. This bitch really, bothers me. Do I personally believe that she was in a abusive relationship with Matthew Santoro, it sounds plausible to me. Because just viewing her video, Dear Fat People, I learned a lot about her. I learned that I never want to allow her into my reality ever again. I can't stand people like that. So, let me just summarize this because this has gone on long enough. Nicole Arbour, if you're watching, I want to say mean things. I want to say angry, hurtful things, but I'm not going to. What I am going to say is this. I encourage you to seek enlightenment. Other people were not put on this planet for your viewing pleasure. We are all human beings. We are all flawed, including you. Because if the stories are true, if even half the stories are true, and I'm sure at least half of the stories are true, sure, I'll accept that there might be a little bit of exaggeration here and there. But if even half of that is true, you are a deeply flawed human being. And I bet inside you seek forgiveness for that. I bet inside you seek to be forgiven for being imperfect. So extend that same courtesy to other people. Forgive and be forgiven. And I'm going to refrain from saying horrible things about you anymore. Just let those negative feelings go. Now, if you are one of those people who liked her video, let's see. I haven't really touched on you yet in this video. So I'm going to say, if you're one of those people who liked that video, look inside of yourself. Is this really progress? Are fat people really not deserving of dignity? Sure, tough love. Some of them are overweight because of their choices, yes. But, have you ever walked in those shoes? Have you ever struggled with being overweight in a society that rewards people from being lazy? In a society that rewards people for being shiftless and to manipulate other people into doing physically demanding things for you? In a society that encourages these things, have you ever struggled with weight? If the answer is no, then just take me for my word here. It's not always as easy as you think. It's not. Some people struggle with it. Genetically, we as human beings are genetically wired to hold on to fat, to hold on to sustenance as long as we can. In an era where nutrients were scarce and you didn't know when your next meal was going to be, the human body was designed to not give up that sustenance. And in an era where food is suddenly plentiful, that's a win for man. But nature still takes precedent. And nature says that food is scarce, that you don't know when your next meal is going to be. You have to hold on to those nutrients as long as you can. So there is scientific evidence to show that it's not always as easy as you think. And I'm sure food was more or less scarce depending on where you were. Certain people with certain genetic backgrounds are more likely to be skinny than others, based on where they live. This is science. If you want religious dogma, we were all built differently. We were all designed differently so that we can interact with each other differently. Not everyone is going to be skinny. Now what you, Nicole, did, that was not tough love. That was pure bigoted hatred. I mean, if I was to come into your social circle all of a sudden, how many overweight people would I find that you know? How many overweight friends do you have, Nicole? How many overweight how many overweight family members do you have? So if you are one of the lowlives who like this video, if I was a Christian man, I'd say I'd pray for you. Just please, find the light. Stop the hate. Be more tolerant of other people. And stop supporting bigots like Nicole. To everybody else, don't let this cause you to lose faith in humanity. This is just what defines a person is how they react to stressful circumstances, and what defines a culture and what defines a species is how they react to things like this. Don't let ignorant people like Nicole bring you down. This is an anomaly. This is one person who is spreading ignorance, and the ignorant people are acknowledging it. Look at the backlash. Look at how many people are outraged over this. Do I agree with her getting her YouTube channel removed, or whatever form of censorship she suffered? No. I believe in freedom of speech. I don't necessarily believe that YouTube has to protect freedom of speech, but at the same time, I don't think that someone should be I don't believe that somebody should be censored for just saying things that are unpopular or things that are ignorant. I think people should have the right to spread ignorant things. Doesn't mean everyone else has to like it. But other people have the right to dislike it. And other people have the right to not acknowledge these things. And these people that say these things. Vamonos way. What the hell am I thinking? So let's just wrap this up. This represents a low point for the YouTube community. Let's come together. Let's create positive things. Let's not use YouTube as a way to spread hate. And when we do spread hate with YouTube or any other social media, let's use this as an example to move forward. Nicole Arbour, if you're listening, please stop this spiral of self-destruction that you have chosen to go down. I wish you the best. The path you are on now is the wrong path. It is a path of hate. It is a path of ignorance. It is a self-hating, antagonistic path. You are capable of so much better. I encourage you to seek the light. I encourage you to do better. And that's all I'm going to say. This is just too upsetting. I mean, I guess I'm glad I did it, but I'm glad it's over. So, end. Good night, everybody.